Hey everybody, welcome back to Service and Sacrifice. This is Justin, and today I have Andrew with me. Andrew, you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, so as you and I went to high school together, and uh, right after that, did like 1 year of college, hated it, kind of found out academia just wasn't for me. And right after that, I joined the Marines in 2009. Yeah, and spent 6 years in, did three deployments, got out in 2015, and work for my family now, and pretty much have a normal life now, but I don't hate it. Had a really good time and don't regret any of it, but that's kind of the wave tops there.
Why did you go to any other recruiters, or like why'd you pick the Marines?
So I was at community college and I was doing criminology, and it was like the project we had to do was like design your own prison. And I've known about like military stuff since I was a kid. So I went in depth and drew this like prison and had all these pictures of like weapons on it, like 50 cal sniper rifles and all that. So I give my presentation and I'm walking out. And I'm just hating college. Like it's just there was like 2 weeks where I just didn't even go to class because you know how when you're out of high school, like no one's forcing you to go. It's kind of on you. And I'll fully admit, like I just did not have the discipline at the time to do this. Um, yeah, it wasn't there. I couldn't motivate myself to go to class. So I'm walking out and I bump into a Marine recruiter and he's like, "Oh, what's that poster?" And he sees all the weapon systems on it. And I started talking to him, and he goes, did you ever think about joining the Marine Corps? And I was like, you know what? Yeah. So I went down to his office and I started talking to him, and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I actually signed, didn't tell my parents. Let's just say back ended up, our relationship wasn't great. I'm out of high school, still living at home. We're fighting all the time. I would go out and party, come home late. So I just like threw the paperwork on the table and I was like, this is what I'm doing. And I feel like I don't regret it. Like I had to make this decision for me because like I feel like my parents could have talked me out of it. And I was like, no, this is just what I want to do. And it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And I was in delayed entry for like 6 months. But in that time, I was like, well, I know what I'm doing in 6 months from now. So I dropped out. I wasn't going anywhere and just kind of worked out, trained, and then shipped in October of '09.
Dude, military recruiters going to community college is like it must be like fish in a barrel, dude. Like
Yeah.
they could easily like go to the food court or like walk around and find some kid and be like, "Hey, you want to like make money and like live for free in the barracks?"
Yeah, yeah. And then as you know the area that we live in, it was Tongues Community College, so like, it's closer to like the Bristol area of Farmington, which for those that don't know, it's not a very affluent area, so of course they're gonna get you. If they came to like, not that you and I are super rich, but we grew up in a nice town. If they went there, everyone would just be like, nah. Like and they know that. They know not to canvass that area.
Yeah, yeah, they're smart for sure.
Yeah.
So were your parents upset at all, or were they just like cool?
They were, I'm sure they like talked like, when I wasn't there, like in the bedroom, like, oh my God. Honestly, they weren't like too shocked, I think once they saw that I was like into it, and maybe it was just because it was like 6 months, they didn't have to think about it. But once the day came, like my mom was cool, but my dad got kind of sad, but what are you gonna do?
Did you go to Albany MEPS?
No, it's Chicopee. That's where,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I remember going, spend the whole day there, and that's an experience.
Yeah, I went to Albany. What did you get on your ASVAB? Do you remember?
Be honest, not great. I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't an idiot, but I don't remember the numbers like my GT score, but it wasn't stellar. Wanted to be an infantryman, and all I cared about was like, is that good enough for infantry? He's like, yeah, yeah, that's good. I wasn't gonna get intel, put it that way, but yeah, my score was not. But I mean, like when I went into the recruiter, man, like I talk about the no discipline thing. Like I had enough sense. Like I knew I needed to get my ass kicked. Like I needed this for me. I was like, not that I had everything handed to me, but it was a typical life. I was like, I need to do something hard. That's why I picked the Marine Corps. I was like, I don't want to go reserves. I don't want to go guard. not hating on that. I just want to go full in, go away for a couple of years and go in the Marines. And one of my recruiters was like, well, here's the benefits. But I straight up, and I'm not trying to sound like a badass. I was like, dude, I want to deploy. Like, I want to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. I don't really care what you're telling me right now. It doesn't mean anything to me. I just want to leave and go deploy. I was probably one of the easiest dudes he ever had.
So you picked infantry then?
Well, I wanted it, but this was 2009 and there was a troop surge. Obama spiked the Marine Corps. It was like 40,000 more guys were getting sent to Afghanistan. So it actually was kind of hard to get them. I was like, if you really want this, you got to wait because they only have so many slots every month they can do it. So they're like, what about welder? What about this? And I was like, no. So I got on the phone with another recruiter that was like in the district, and he's like, well, this is what I do. I'm a comms guy, and he was a Fallujah veteran. And I was like, okay, so I'll go see some action. So I picked a radio operator. Little did I know that that meant I could literally go to any unit, but you don't know that at the time. So yeah,
Yeah. So okay, you went in 2009, 2015. You went to Paris Island, right?
yeah.
How was that?
So everyone who goes there talks about like the humidity and the sand fleas, but since I went in October through January, we missed that. I mean, it's the typical experience, I guess. It's the thing about Marine Corps boot camp versus like the Army is like you learn very little in terms of skills. It's all about drill, customs and courtesies, how to wear your damn uniform, shoot on the range. But it's not like combat shooting. It's old target shooting. I don't think it kind of applies, but it's kind of, that's not how you're going to shoot in combat. So it's really more of like an in-doc to get into the club. You don't learn any other weapon systems. You learn like some tactical stuff, but it's like straight up Vietnam stuff. And I'm just going to say everything I say is from my experience in '09. Like, I don't know what they do now, but I mean, it was very like a wedge formation and it was just very dated stuff. So it's basically just an in-doc to get you in because we're so proud to be Marines.
Did you guys, was this wedge for you? You like do the wedge?
Oh yeah, the hand signals. Yeah, but it was a lot of like Vietnam type tactics, like they didn't talk about like modern stuff. But again, that's further schooling that you do after.
Yeah, I feel like you went in the perfect time. October to January is such good weather because you're missing like brutal winter and like
Maybe.
super hot heat.
Well, the thing is, like, so it's military training, as you know, like it'd be cool if you can wear whatever you want, but like I remember the coldest I ever was the school you go to after boot camp was in North Carolina in February, and that was probably the coldest I've ever been in my life. I don't know why, it just was brutal. But yeah, as far as I heard the humidity down there's awful, and I would not do well there.
Yeah, so then where'd you get stationed after?
Camp Pendleton, California, so I was a West Coaster, which was perfect for me because you when you're done with so you go to boot camp and then if you're non-infantry you go to what's called MCT, which is Marine Combat Training. It's 30 days long. That's where you shoot the 240, the SAW, the 203, and you get more in depth into like you know formations and better like tactical shooting. They teach you how to do like speed reloads and stuff. If you're an infantryman, you go to infantry training battalion, which for the first 30 days you just learn rifleman stuff. And then if you're a mortarman or a javelin gunner, you break off and there's like another 30 to 60 days of that training. After that, those guys go right to we call it the fleet, their units. So once we're done with MCT, the non-infantry guys, that's where you go to your MOS school. So mine was in 29 Palms, California. It was 3 months. It was a comm school because I was a radio guy, but it's like comm and data, guys that fix radios. So that's about 3 months if you pick up class right away. Some guys wait there forever. And then after that, I got sent to my unit on Camp Pendleton, which is, I don't know, 3 hours away. So got what I wanted. They they tell you like fill out this sheet. What do you want? East Coast, West Coast, or overseas? Overseas for us is Okinawa, Japan, which didn't want that. But I picked West Coast just to get away and, just have some time away. Got what I wanted.
I know you deployed like at least once. How did that work? Like, how long were you in California before you went somewhere and then came back? What's the story there?
Um, yeah, so I got to my unit in July of 2010. So the got really lucky. So like I said, being a radio operator, I mean, every unit has comm. I can go to the air wing, artillery, infantry. The unit I got sent to, it's kind of unique. Nobody really knows about it. It was first 𝐸𝐵𝐿𝐶𝐭. That's an acronym for Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company. So essentially what it is like the air naval gunfire part. We specialize in calling in mortars, artillery, close air support. The liaison part is we typically deploy with foreign forces, or you'll have like a Marine detachment with like the SEALs or like the Army. And the idea is we speak joint language. Like I know like the Army version of a call for fire, or like the way they run like close air support's a little different, but we understand that. But like our bread and butter is like deploying with foreign forces, and we're their FOs and radio operators of fires basically. So the way it works is you'll get put on a four-man team. It's typically led by a captain who's either a infantryman, a pilot, or an artillery officer, and they're what's called a JTAC, which is a Joint Terminal Attack Controller. They've been through school. They're qualified to drop ordnance from aircraft. Then you'll have a team chief, we call him. He's usually a sergeant, usually a forward observer. Then you can have two junior forward observers or two radio operators. And it's a cool unit because like you're not in an infantry battalion where there's like, 1,500 guys. You're radio operator number three. Like you're on a tight team, your opinion matters, and you got to cross train. So like I was a radio operator, but I know how to do the naval gunfire call for fire, mortars, artillery, all that. So I got there. It was pretty bad. I got there July of 2010. The whole unit was gone. They were on post deployment leave. They had just done the Battle of Marja. So they came back from that, and we were like fresh meat, but it was good. It was like out in formation for you cleaning your rooms, yelling at us, asking us knowledge questions. If you didn't know them, take a lap around the barracks. It was really good. These guys had just done a pretty good deployment. May of 2011, the whole unit pushed to Helmand Province, and that was my first deployment.
I like vaguely remember you going. Were you there 12 months?
We do 7-month tours typically.
Oh yeah, you guys do the
Yeah,
short
unless you're
ones.
with like a higher command, you do 12. But Marines, it's usually a 7-month tour. So May to December of 11 was my first deployment.
It's not bad. 7 months. I mean, it's not
No,
great,
it's
but
yeah, it's like if I know like the Army does like 12 to 15, you get like R&R in the middle of it. I don't really know if I would like that. I've heard from a lot of people that it's not great. So I'd rather do a little bit shorter. By the time you really are getting sick of it, it's like, you got a month left and then you're out.
so you went there, then you came back. Were you at Pendleton the whole time in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's kind of where your like home base is, but like you're always, they'll send you to schools if you're selected for it. And we were pretty gifted. Like we got to do a lot of training. Like we went to Idaho. We worked with the Germans for like a month. Then we go to San Clemente Island, which is an island off the coast of California, and there's like a range there. We'll do close air support training, and sometimes if there's like a destroyer off the coast, we'll call in a live naval gunfire just to sharpen that up. So yeah, you're in Pendleton, but like a lot of times you're, somewhere else training, which was just nothing but fun.
Did you deploy a second time or no?
Yeah, I went back to Afghanistan in September of 2012 for another 7-month tour. So two Afghanistan tours, they're pretty close together. I wanted to go back. I mean, I'm a single dude. I had nothing. I didn't even have a car, honestly. Like deploying for me was so easy. All I had to do was pack my shit and cancel my internet. It was just it was so simple. Didn't have anybody to say goodbye to, no family, there.
So what did you were you back for like less than a year before you went again?
I know technically you're not supposed to do that, but I mean, just like they needed guys to go on this next one because a couple people couldn't make it for whatever reason, and I was like, I want to go. They're like, okay, cool. You know, go over to. I had to like change teams, but like go to over here. You work for them now. You're deployed in 3 months. I'm just like, okay.
Kind of know a little bit about like Marine ranks. It's very different, but I see a lot of people who like say they get stuck at like terminal lance because I guess it's really hard to make corporal. Did you make corporal or how did that?
Well, the terminal lance thing is typically from like the infantry because it's you got to remember you're competing against thousands of guys. So unless you're like stellar, you're not gonna stick out. I was a lance corporal my first deployment. I pinned corporal the end of my first deployment. My second deployment, I was a corporal the whole time, and before I went on my third deployment, I pinned down sergeant.
Nice. So you made E5. Where was the
Yeah.
third deployment to?
The third deployment is on ship. So the Marines do a deployment called a 𝐸, which is a Marine Expeditionary Unit. Basically, you're embarked on 3 ships. There's a battery of artillery, a battalion of infantrymen. We take 4 Abrams tanks with us, section of Harriers, Cobras, Hueys, and Ospreys. The idea is you float around. If you're Camp Pendleton, you float around the Pacific. If you're North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, typically you float around like the Med. The idea is like you float around. There's different ports you hit for fun, but there's also exercises we do with foreign countries. But while you're doing this, you're kind of like the 911 call. So if something happens in the world, we jump back on the ships and we go there, whether it's humanitarian or war zone. So like I am good friends with a guy. When I knew him, he was a major, but he was in Australia when 9/11 happened and they got recalled, sent on the ship, and they went right to Afghanistan. They were some of the first guys to go. So that's the whole theory behind it. But I don't really agree with it too much because it's like when you're on ship, there's just nothing to do, can only clean your weapons and work out so much. I think it's kind of stupid, honestly. And getting stuff on and off the ship is a real pain in the ass. I think they should just do away with it. They should have guys forward deployed to like I heard in one of your podcasts you mentioned Camp Buring. They should have guys in Camp Buring and just forward deployed on the ground where you can do more training. And then if something happens, then they can divert them. Just the whole ship deployment is just, I think they keep it for tradition, but it's just miserable. I tried to go back to Afghanistan a third time, but they didn't let me.
Yeah, I always forget that you guys like go on the Navy boats.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Navy people that they just go crazy on the ships for like 10 to 12 months because they're just like stuck. There's only so much you could do. You just like keep seeing the same people over and over again. Like it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
terrible.
it's terrible. We got off, actually, we got off for about 2 months. I went to Camp Beering for 2 months, which was great. We got off the ship and they got diverted to like sit off the coast of Yemen. But at least I was on a nice base with food. And yeah, man, ship is just, there's lines for food. Every time you try to like be somewhere to like be and like chill, they like, hey, we're gonna move the helicopters, get the fuck out of here. Hey, we're doing firefighter training. So yeah, I mean, we had it kind of good. The we call them berthings, like the little like pod you stay in with your beds. There's like different ones for different units. I was with the Recon Marines, and they were like super chill. Like if you wanted to take a nap, there's nothing going on, whatever. But some guys had it bad. Like some of the infantry guys, like their first sergeant was like from 8 o'clock till after dinner, you're not allowed to sit in your bed. You should be doing something. Like I couldn't imagine that. That just sounds horrible.
I forgot about the recon marine. So was there ever any thought that crossed your mind like did you want to drop a packet and try to do that or
Yeah, so actually when I was at Buring, I checked my like Marine, like I don't forget what they call it. It's like your online profile, and I got orders to a third recon battalion in Okinawa. But at the time, so taking it a step back, after my second deployment, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My time was coming up to an end. So typically Marines sign 4-year contracts, and I was getting to the end of that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was able to extend for 2 years and go on my third deployment. So that bought me more time. Um, but while I was on my third deployment, I made the decision to get out. I was like, all right, this is it. Cause I already talked to like my family and I was like, they're like, yeah, you can work for us, so I had a plan. So when I was in Kuwait, I got orders to recon And I thought about it for a minute, but I was just like, no, I already made up my mind to get out. Had I taken those orders though, I would have either tried basic reconnaissance course and tried to go a recon. If anything, I would have at least changed from radio operator to forward observer. But like I said, I already made my mind up. And once you deny orders, I mean, you have to get out. That's it. And that's what I did.
I don't know much about the recon school, but is it kind of like Army Special Forces? Like if you get approved and you do it and you pass it, are you automatically like Marine Recon, or do you have to be selected still?
So they do it a lot better now. So when I was in, you could join right from the recruiter. They call them recon babies. So you could actually sign up and go. I think they have to go to school of infantry and then they just go across the street and try basic reconnaissance course. Or you can, we call it a lateral move. You can put in a package and try to go to basic reconnaissance. And if you make it, then there you are. I, I think it was very like, I don't know if it was because the Marine Corps was so busy with deployments, but you would get guys who were basic reconnaissance, but they weren't like parachute qualified. Because I'm not a recon person. I worked with them a lot. I think the end goal is to get them jump, halo, and scuba qualified. That's like the perfect one. Now they do it a lot better. Like they have an actual pipeline, from what I understand. So once you graduate BRC, we call it basic reconnaissance course, then they're like, all right, now you're going to SEER, Halo, jump, and combatant diver, then they'll send you to your unit. I'm pretty sure that's how they do it now. So it's like by the time this dude gets to recon battalion, he's already fully insert qualified, and now you can start working with them. I'm pretty sure that's how they do it now. They have a more formal pipeline.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like halo jumping and diving and stuff.
Yeah,
I knew a lot of dudes who how it works in the Army is you drop your special forces packet, has to get approved. Then you can pass the whole, I think it's like 18-month training, but then you have to get selected, right? So you can pass it, but they only have so many open slots and like they might not select you. Maybe they select the dude who did slightly better than you in a certain area. So I know dudes who did it like 2 times and get selected. I know people that did the whole thing, got selected, and then like partied for to celebrate and like broke their
yeah,
ankle, and then they were like, "Oh, you're out now." So
yeah. And it's a lot of like what they're looking for is like not what a lot of people think. So I got a good friend of mine who tried out for MARSOC, and he went to what we call ANS, the assessment and selection. And this dude was insanely strong. Like he would do, I'm not joking, he would do like gas mask runs. He'd run, swim, run, swim. He was so jacked. He didn't get selected because he got peered out because his personality and his team cohesion just wasn't there. And they're like, bro, we don't care that you're Mr. Muscle Guy. Like you're not, it's not what we want. Um, I feel bad for him. Unfortunately for him, he didn't get selected. He went on the 2011 deployment and lost his leg to an IED. But yeah, anyway, it was pretty interesting to me to see that firsthand, that this dude, they're like, no, that's cool that you can kill everyone in TT, but it's not what we want.
yeah, that's rough. I don't know if I ever told you this, or maybe you listened to previous episodes, but I the first recruiter I went to was the Marine recruiter in New York, and I had no clue. I just wanted to leave, right? Because I was like not doing well in school either.
Yeah, yeah,
And I walked in, the dude had on his dress uniform, um, and I was like, I just said, like, let's do infantry, right? Because, like, my ASVAB's going to be bad. I figured everybody needs infantry people. Like, let's go. And he was like, it's a 12-month wait
yeah.
to get there.
Because you probably
And
tried to go in the same time as me. Close.
yeah, I went in, I talked to the recruiters. I went there like November ish, 2009. Because I went to basic February 2010. And he was like, it's going to be 12 months. And like, I didn't want to join badly enough that I was like, I'm going to wait and train for 12 months. Like, I would definitely be like, nah, I don't want to do this in 9 months from now, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't try to tell me like any other MOSs. He's like, like radar or this or that. So I just left. And then I submitted one of those like online questionnaires for the Army. And those dudes were all over it. They were like, we'll give you like a dozen jobs, whatever you want.
I'll tell you, man, like I don't regret joining the Marines, but it's like it's you're kind of stuck. I mean, like the Army doesn't talking out of my ass, but it doesn't sound bad. I mean, there's so many more opportunities. You can go to like Sapper, Ranger. I did end up going to Airborne. That was a interesting school, but it just seems like the Army has a lot more opportunities for like the like in the Marines, it's like you'll get all those schools if you're recon or MARSOC, but the Army, there's like infantrymen who are Ranger quals and they've been to Pathfinder, Air Assault, Airborne. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, if you're infantry, you can get any school you want as long as you're not like, a shitbag or whatever.
Yeah,
But all the schools like Air Assault, Ranger, Airborne, Pathfinder, like all you have to do, like sharpshooter, sniper schools, you just drop a packet and they're like, sure, go.
yeah,
But it sucks for the rest of us because like I was artillery and like we couldn't go to air assault school because they were like, when are you going to rappel from a helicopter? You work in a tracked vehicle.
yeah, yeah. I know. It's
So
it makes sense, but like if you're like a regular Joe Schmo infantry rifleman in the Marine Corps and you drop a package, I mean, you'll meet for the most part you'll meet so much resistance, and they'll be like, oh, we can't afford to lose you. It's like it's almost like you have to like be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to like open your mouth and say it. And I've heard stories of people who wanted to go to Scout Sniper and they just like went behind people's back that were telling them no and put the package in. Like I've heard of that happening. I'm not saying it's everywhere, but it just seems like the Marine Corps is so resistant to like that.
it's funny how you mention more opportunities in the Army because that's what people in the Army say about the Air Force. They're like, man, we should have gone Air Force because,
Yeah.
dude, the PT test has changed. I don't know what it is now, but back in 2010 to 2013, dude, I remember the Air Force PT test was like, it was like a mile, it was like a mile and a half or something bike, stationary bike.
My
And
God.
then it was like crunches and I think like a sprint or something. Dude, I remember being like, yo, that is the easiest test ever. And I don't know, quality of life just seems so much better. Like the bases, um, when you go overseas, like I always heard they had nicer barracks and defects and stuff.
A big thing for the guys I work with, I mentioned those guys who were at JTACs. A lot of those guys, the Marine Corps doesn't care. So they'll spend the school to become one's about $1 million, and typically they'll get 3 years. And I've heard of guys who right when they start to get good at it, you have to be good, and you're dropping ordnance from aircraft. It's you. I've heard of guys getting flagged for recruiting and they're putting in waivers, and the Marine Corps was just like, no, you either get out or you're going to go be a recruiter. So a lot of them go to the Air Force and become what's called a TAC-P, which is the Air Force JTAC. And when you're there and you're a TAC-P, that's all you do. You can spend the next 15 years being a JTAC and just dropping ordnance, and that's all you do. It's tempting for a lot of guys to cross deck over to the Air Force because you get cool gear and there's no threat like I might have to go be a drill instructor and leave my and when you do that job, it's a 3 year job. You'll come back, your quals are all gone. And I don't know why they do that. It's really, really dumb.
Yeah, I knew there were a good amount of dudes who I ran into who were ex-Marines and they switched over and they said it was like, they were like, yo, the quality of life here is way better. They didn't have to re-go to boot camp. They kept their rank. And they were just like, it's way better here. So I always found that interesting.
Yep. I have I know one guy who's two guys who were recon Marines, now they're Army SF. I know two guys I worked with. One was a radio operator, one was a forward observer. They dropped a warrant officer package. They're both Apache pilots now. So yeah,
Yeah, warrant officer is the way to go. A lot of people like to go like green to gold, but I've heard a lot of people hate it becoming officers because there's so much like politics and like they do things very differently, right? Like officers don't yell at each other and like berate each other. They do like closed doors type shit, right? Like they like talk. I've heard they like demean each other. Whereas enlisted NCOs are screaming terrible things at each other, right? And
yeah,
I feel like the sweet spot, if I was gonna do 20 or even over 10, I would do warrant because I knew so many like E6s who just dropped a warrant packet and became helicopter pilots and they're loving life, dude. They don't answer to anybody
no,
because You outrank all the enlisted, and officers don't mess with warrants, right? They're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So
They're the subject. You're like the subject matter in your MOS, and you're very good at it. And so they know not to like fuck with you.
yeah, we had a warrant officer. I think it was a W3 who ran like the motor pool maintenance shop.
Yeah.
I saw that dude like a dozen times in 3 years. Like I don't know where he was, don't know what he did. You just see him, and then you're just like, like chief, and then he just like walks away, and
Yeah.
that was it.
Same for us. Yeah. Same exact thing. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are cool. I don't know. I always had issues personally with like the officers right out of college. Like
Yeah.
it was it was really difficult for me to be like, 2.5 years getting towards the end, being like a force specialist in the army, and like you get these like 23-year-old lieutenants, the butter bars, right?
Yeah.
And dude, they're just like so, I don't know how to explain it. They're just like disconnected, right? Like they just come in, bark orders, and it just felt very like not unit cohesion.
Yeah. It's very like, are these my men kind of thing. But I feel
It's
like,
just,
correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like for the army, it's like almost like a script. So it's like, well, let's use like a typical infantry lieutenant. It's like, okay, so they commission. Now they're trying to get to ranger school as fast as they can, or they feel like they're never going to get captain. And then once they get that, I heard from what I've seen, it's like there's not a lot of decentralized command in the army. Like they're the lieutenants, they don't like make their own decisions. They're like, well, the company commander says this. It's like, yeah, you're leading this patrol through the city or whatever. You got to make the call, but
yeah, the LTs ran like, like our fake training missions, and like they give us like the speeches, like this is what we're going to do and convoy this and that. But ultimately, like it all went through the captain, the BC, who, I don't know, they were always like in their office. Couldn't tell you what they were doing. Yeah, I had a couple cool LTs that like they knew when to like turn it off, right? Like if it was just like us, me and them, or maybe a couple dudes, they would just chat with you, right? Because we were all the same age. We were all like 22. But the second like higher ups came, they went back to like formal stuff, and then there were just officers who were just like tool bags for no reason.
that's the worst.
Dude. So I know you kind of touched on it, but like what were some of the big reasons you got out?
So I kind of figured, let me try to think about it. So I did get orders to a reconnaissance, so that would have been good. But I just felt like I got everything I wanted out of it. Deployed 3 times in 6 years. I got to go to airborne. Never didn't expect that. I just felt like it probably wasn't going to get better than that. I kind of just had my fill. That's really it. I'm ready to just move on.
How I don't know if you remember, but do you have any concept of how long, like say you stayed in until you hit E6? Was it close or like not even like a far away?
I know for my MOS, getting staff sergeant is kind of like it's like that's not a roadblock, but that's kind of like the big one. Um, you have to get it actually in 10 years or you get forced out. I was at 6. I probably was looking at maybe 2 years, but then you become you're not a radio operator anymore. You're a comm chief. So now you're in charge of like the computers and all that. And it's just, like I said, if I had stayed in, I would have definitely changed jobs. I'm so done with it. But yeah, probably 2 years. Again, rank you get, it stops becoming fun.
Yeah, you might have gotten like recruiting duty or something.
Hey, you never know. You know, I would have definitely not done that. And then you got to deny orders if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to do it, then you got to deny orders, and then that's it. You're out. So it sucks.
They don't let you stay in, like you have to take the orders.
If you get flagged for like drill instructor or recruiter, and you deny them, then that's it. You know. It ends there. I'm sure there's like circumstances where guys have gotten out of it and stayed in, but for the most part, that's what happens. It really sucks. Yeah. And then, like I said, that 10-year thing, that's all MOS is. If you don't get E6 in 10 years, or at least that's how it was when I was in. I don't know if they do that anymore, but it really sucks. That's why you get dudes who play the game, you know, to like look good on paper just to stay in. I've met so many guys who were just pieces of shit, but on paper they had a perfect PT score. They're a black belt in martial arts, expert rifleman, which are those are all things that are calculated to promote Marines. Is like your shooting score, your martial arts score, your physical fitness score. But like when it came time to like, you probably remember this from artillery. When you like do a full gear layout, lay everything out and read serial numbers and shit. I was doing that with my guys as a sergeant, just because like that's what you had to do. The dudes are out there. I got no problem helping them out, and I had guys that just wouldn't help out. But on paper, they were like perfect. And I'm like, this guy's a piece of shit, and they didn't know that much about their job.
Did you do any of that martial arts stuff? What is it called? McMap in the Marines?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's called Marine Corps Martial Arts Training. It's good in theory, but what ends up happening is one day the captain or, you know, E7 gunnery sergeant, he'll walk in and go, this is what we're doing for PT this morning, and we'll do it. But none of us have done it in 3 months. So we're relearning it essentially. And then it's good if you do it. You're supposed to do it like multiple times a week, but nobody does. The belt system is like it's tan, gray, green, brown, black. You graduate boot camp with a tan belt. On my first deployment, we like didn't patrol for a while for like Ramadan, so we had a guy come down. I got my gray belt, and then on when I was on ship, I went all the way to black. I hated it, but I did it just so they wouldn't like fuck with me anymore. So I went all the way to black belt, which I don't know shit about shit. It was just to get the belt so that it was like, hey, we're gonna do. I'm like, no, 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 I'm good. I've already got it. That backfired on me one time. There's a unit in the UK that basically does what we do. It's like our pen pal, like our sister unit. And then once a year, we host them in California. We do like a month-long training with them. Let's be honest, it's a little bit of training and a lot of partying. But we went out to the mats one day in like our gym, and the British guy's like, "Oh, I want to fucking fight a black belt," and he calls me out, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" Really, he got me in a choke, but he like left enough of a gap there where I could have my airway. I ended up like spinning and getting him in a choke, but I was like, man, if this motherfucker taps me out, that'll be really embarrassing because I'm supposed to be this black belt, but I didn't know shit about shit. I just got lucky.
The black belt's the highest.
Yeah, well, black belt's the highest technically, but then you can get like a tab, like a first degree, second degree, third degree on it. Yeah, that's
Okay.
if
So
you're
you
into
guys
it.
like it's like literally like karate or something
It's
with
it's
the
supposed to
belts.
be like they invented it in like 2002. It's supposed to be like a combination of like all different disciplines mixed together. I mean, I guess it's okay if you keep on top of it, we just never really did. I mean, like I said, I probably couldn't, defend myself that well.
Yeah, the army we just called it combatives.
Yeah.
I think there were 4 levels, and once you were at level 4, you were like a trainer.
Yeah, that's how
Some
we
of the
were.
master combatives dudes, they would some of them. One of the NCOs from my unit was a master whatever combatives person, and all he did full time was travel to other bases and just
Yeah.
teach combatives.
Yeah, we
I
have
was
that
like,
too.
yo, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, if you're into it, it's cool.
I was gonna say once you hit like level 3, I think you like fight in cages, like UFC style or something.
For us, it's like I said, that your belt rank is factored into your promotion score, and your actual belt is like a tactical webbing belt, so it's part of your camouflage uniform. So like if you take your camouflage top off and we wear a green shirt underneath, take that off, you're gonna do like a gear layout or something. You take your top off because it's like hot. You can see everyone has a different color belt, and you can see what like rank everyone is when you're wearing it.
Yeah, Marines love I don't know how to explain it. They love like showing off what makes them so different from all other branches, like the dress
Oh yeah,
uniform, the different belts. Like you guys get
yeah,
like fancy combat knives or some shit. So I did level 1 combatives. It took me 2 years of asking before our unit was like able to go, and they were like, "Sure, then you can go." It was 40 hours, so 1 week, and it was like 50%. The instructors just like whooped the shit out of you. They were
yeah,
like, they're like, check out what I can do, and then like choked you 15 ways.
yeah,
And then the other 50% was, I think we learned like 12 different ways to choke, and it was really good for like ground. If you're like rolling around on the ground with somebody, like your weapon jammed or they
yeah.
knocked out of your hand. shows you how to choke people. The thing that I thought was kind of stupid is a lot of the chokes relied on you having your collar from
Like
your
that, like and
ACUs.
grabbing the blouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, yo, this is not applicable if they have like a t-shirt on. And then
yeah,
they're like, oh, you got to do this other special choke. And I'm like, why don't
yeah.
we not assume people have collars on?
Right. I know. Yeah, I remember doing stuff like that. Some of it was pretty freaking hard. Like one of my instructors when I was on ship, he would make us do this thing called the circle of death, where you're on your knees on the mats and everyone's in a circle and he would call two people out and you would grapple. You had to stay on your knees and you would grapple for 2-minute rounds. And if he saw that you were muscling it and not using technique, he would keep you in there. And it was like, no, you're staying next guy. So a fresh guy's coming in and 2 minutes of grappling is hard. I mean, you're exhausted. And I did it myself. I went through like three guys where he's like, nah, man, I'm keeping you in there until you use technique. Like if I see you trying to like, tense up and try to muscle your way through this, I'm gonna keep you in there. So you're fighting a fresh guy and you're just getting your ass kicked.
Yeah, I remember the instructors did this thing for like graduation where they were like, they picked like four trainees per instructor, and there were like four instructors. And it was just like a free for all. Like they like they like pulled the trigger and they were like, all right, try to take down the instructor. And it was so cool seeing this master combatives dude just whoop this shit out of four people, like flipping them over, tap his arm real quick.
I bet. He's probably just like holding one guy back with one arm.
But there were a lot of Marines on Fort Sill. So that's you guys did your like cannon like Bravo training there, like the kind of you put the shell in it and they pull it. I think you also did like HIMARS training there.
Yeah, I
So
think every Marine artillery MOS goes through there. So forward observers go there, the cannoneers, the counter battery radar guys, I think, go through there because there's like a Marine detachment at Fort Sill. So that's where everyone goes.
yeah, so I remember seeing like I'd go to the gym after work and I would see like one of the you could tell they're trainees because like they wear their belt and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I'd see the Marine dudes there, and then we'd also see them at PT. So I think we had to get to PT at like 6 or something, and we would just be getting there and be stretching, right? Like just in the middle of stretching, doing a stupid like rotating your shoulder type shit. The Marines would get back from some like crazy ass 7 mile run, so they'd have already been up for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you guys wear those like short ass shorts.
Yeah. We call them Silkies. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, they're yeah. It's like we call it green on green. So the green top, the green shorts, the glow belt, and it's like you bend over, your like nut sacks coming out because they're so short.
Yeah, so I just remember telling myself like stretching at 6 a.m. like, yo, that would suck to wake up at like 4:30 and run 7 miles.
So again, that's like a typical unit. The unit that I was in was a little bit more chill. I mean, if you started to like show your ass, like it would be like Marine Corps rules again. But generally, a couple days a week, it was like work out on your own kind of thing. And yeah, there were guys who would go back to their room and sleep, but like, I mean, it would show later on. So like the physical fitness tests we do, there's like first, second, and third class, and it's like third class is still passing, but that's like bare minimum. And I had a new commanding officer come in, a lieutenant colonel, and he was like, "Yo, anyone in this unit who runs a second class, you're running with me on the weekends until we get it up." And he was a marathon runner. And I thought that was cool. I was like, yeah, like you shouldn't be like a piece of shit.
You guys had the 3 mile run, then you had to do chin ups, right?
So when I was in, they changed it, but when I was in, it was a 3 mile run. It was strict pull-ups for the guys. Three was the minimum, 20 was the max. And it was crunches actually. We didn't do sit-ups. It was 100 crunches in 2 minutes. And the females didn't do pull-ups. They had to do a flexed arm hang. So here's the bar. They had to like, keep their chin over the bar. They have changed it since I got out. I think it's like 22 pull-ups is the max. It's so different now. I don't want to speak out of term. I think you have like an option instead of like the sit-ups, you can do like a plank or like push-ups. And I don't want to speak wrongly. Funny thing though, since we don't do push-ups in our PT test, when I had to go to Army Airborne, we had to take the Army physical fitness test. So we were like freaking out because we're like, we gotta get these push-ups right.
It's not a lot of push-up.
It's not,
Like
but they're strict.
I know some schools, like when you go to schools, they're strict, like airborne, air assault. But like in your unit, when your NCOs are just grading you, you're just blasting out the push-ups, right?
Yeah.
But I know in school they make you like, do the whole
Yeah,
thing.
we learned like tricks from the guys that gone before us because it was like you can wear like an Under Armour tight tight green shirt, or you can wear like a cotton one that was like a little more loose. And they were like, wear the cotton one so it's like loose and it sticks out like an inch. So because they want to see like chest touch the ground. And if it's like tight to you, there's like an extra inch you have to go. And then obviously you have to like exaggerate your lockout. We were so worried about it. But when it came time to game day, adrenaline was pumping. I just cranked them all out, and it's weird because like
Yeah.
every instructor is different. Like my instructor or my airborne dude who was grading me, like once I got to like the requirement, he told me to stop. There was other ones like right next to me. They're like, "Did I tell you to stop? Because you have 2 minutes." And there was guys who like got to the requirement and stopped, and they failed them. They're like, "Oh, I didn't tell you to stop." So it's like, how much of a dick do they want to be?
How easy was the run for you guys?
Oh, so it was actually super easy for a weird reason. Army Airborne, right? There's hundreds of guys in your class. A lot of them are just out of basic. I'm talking like the week before. These dumbasses are like buying cars, 50% interest, just stupid. Well, you know, I had already been in 3 or 4 years, and this is a big deal for us Marines, like, because we're not reconnaissance, like us getting selected to go to airborne was a big deal. So we took it so seriously. And the weekend before we were hydrating, and these army guys just didn't care. So I went through, it was like November in Georgia, but it was still pretty humid. And when you call you for the push-ups, I remember it was the first thing we did with the push-ups. There's like you're facing and you're in a single file line, like 10 groups, but they make you face away. And something was happening. And I was like, what's going on? And then an ambulance showed up. What ended up happening was so many dudes were like passing out from not hydrating and just the heat. They were like the battalion commander or whatever in the school was like, all right, we're stopping. Just we'll do it again tomorrow. So we did day one of airborne, and they're like, all right, you're doing the physical fitness test tomorrow. But that whole day, it was like every 30 minutes, chug a canteen, and they would hand out these electrolyte packets, and they would like force feed us water. So the next day when I did the run, it was like the easiest run I ever did because I was so fucking hydrated.
What was the Marine run time? Like what was like the slowest you could do it and pass for 3 miles?
It depends on your age. I know the max was 18 minutes, and the goal, I don't know the fail time, but the goal was always to get a first class. And I want to say 18 to like 22 minutes was like a first class PFT physical fitness test, I think. I don't know what like failure is, honestly.
Dude, 3 miles consecutively at 6 minutes is insane.
Saw a lot of guys do it. I think the best I ever in was in like the 19s. I never got a so if you get 18 minutes, you get 100 points, you get all your crunches and all your pull-ups, you get 300. A perfect score is 300. I never got a 300. I was in like the high 290s. I would always max the pull-ups, max the crunches, but I just never got that 3 mile. But hey, I got good scores.
So once you got out, I mean, how was it? You got out in 2015. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I joined after you, but got out 2 years before you. How did you like adapt? Did you just get out and you were like, I'm cool? Or
Well,
did it take
you
you a little bit to transition?
you actually have something to do with it. I don't know if you remember this, but it was weird, honestly, like the first year because I moved back in with my parents and that was okay, but it was just like, oh, one day you're out. So I was working, I didn't, my uncle who I work with was like, really? You don't want to take a month off or anything? I was like, no. So I got out and went to work full time 4 days later just because I knew I need to do something. I can't, like I enjoy time off, but I need to be doing something. So I went to work, but it was weird. Like I would go, eventually 2 months later, I moved out and got a condo. So it's just me. in there, no pets, no girlfriend, nothing. It was kind of depressing because I would keep in touch with a lot of my friends that I served with, but they live all over the country. I went to when you were living with Spencer, I think, in West Hartford. I went to a New Year's Eve party, and I'll never forget it. I was standing in the middle of the room, and you went up to me, and you were like, "Hey, man, are you having a good time?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And you're like, "Because you look like you want to kill everybody." And I was like on guard. I remember standing there with my drink, just like sizing everyone up, and it wasn't like I don't, it wasn't like the PTSD bullshit, but I was definitely different. That kind of lit a fire under me. I was like, holy shit. So it ended up getting better. I joined a CrossFit gym, got a whole new group of friends, but I had like a group. It was like if you weren't at Saturday class, they were texting me like, "Yo, where were you?" And just that felt good. And then after I did that, things really started to come together. But yeah, the first 6 or 7 months were kind of rough. I just kind of being lonely.
But yeah, you like when you get out, like a lot of vets don't realize it, but like you don't know how to like turn the seriousness off, right? Like you're still very like disciplined and show up early and all this shit, and like
The
civilians
David
just don't
Goggins
get it.
shit. Yeah, it takes a while, man. It really does. It took me like a year to like turn that off. It's, yeah, I'm glad it did. But it's like I heard someone say one time, it was like you get the people who like go to like Starbucks and they're like, look at these fucking people. Don't they know there's a war on? But you got to understand the reason that we do what we did is so they can do that. And that took me a long time to understand. Um, and I heard something recently, actually. It was like, is like, the hardest thing you've been through is the hardest thing you've been through. So it's like, if your if your kid is crying because they spilled their ice cream cone and you're just like, oh, you think that's rough? Well, I was in Ramadi, blah, blah. It's like, well, really, you're not really teaching them, you're just being a dick. That's the hardest thing they've probably been through. It's not saying the hardest thing that you've been through. You know what I'm saying? Like at that point, you're just being an asshole.
A lot of vets like struggle with not necessarily like leaving it behind, right? Because you don't have to like forget about it
Yeah.
or anything like that, but you do have to realize that like if you get out of the military and you spend the rest of your life comparing your experiences to like a normal civilian who's like, man, I'm so stressed, like sitting at my desk 8 hours, you're going to be so miserable because you're going to be like, you never had to walk 20 miles carrying a 240. Like, you can't do that, right? You're going to go crazy.
And they don't know what to do with that. They don't even know what you're talking about. You gotta understand that.
That's funny, man. So, to wrap it up, do you have any advice for maybe people in the military that are thinking of transitioning out? Do you have anything like you wish you could have told yourself?
Maybe not told myself, but I would say for me that I'll just say the Marines, I'm definitely proud of it. And it's like where I am right now in my life, that kind of seems like a whole another life because you got to get out and you really got to get involved in something and stay busy. Like I'm married now, and I know we busy with working on my house, go hiking all the time. But even before that, it was like I got into like running, I got into Spartan races heavy. I was just dipping my toes in different things, and that got me involved. And even something simple as like when I was at that CrossFit gym, like one weekend we did a renovation and we took over another room. I was so happy, like volunteering my time and having a purpose, like helping them out. It was like that felt good to give back like that. And this whole time I'm staying busy. Like, if you're out and you're depressed and you're upset about someone you saw die or whatever, but you're sitting on your ass, not doing anything, not calling anybody or trying to get involved. Like I get it, it's hard, but you're just not gonna. You're not helping yourself at all. What pisses me off is when people are like, people don't know what I've been through, but then you ask them about it, they're like, well, I don't talk about it. It's like, well, no one's gonna know unless you talk about it. And I'm not saying you have to, but it's kind of like you're canceling one thing out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm part of like a lot of vet groups. And one of the things that newer vets, mostly newer vets, but sometimes older vets too, struggle with is like they just like don't have purpose or like can't find a meaning to everything. And I always tell them the same thing, which is basically what you just summed up. Like you have to find a purpose. And that purpose doesn't have to be like anything crazy big, right? You don't have to be a doctor and like save lives. It could be something simple like just having a hobby that you repeat.
For sure.
Maybe you just like every week do a new puzzle or join a gym, join a community, sign up for 5Ks. But if you just try to do what normal civilians do, which is like log off of work at 5, go to the grocery store, then watch a movie, you can't do that shit.
No,
It's gonna drive you crazy.
I can't do that. And it's like a lot of veterans, I heard it was like a lot of veterans don't want to be helped, but they like to help. But like if you got into like Habitat for Humanity or something like that, that would be a good place to start. You'll feel good about doing something and you'll make a lot of friends doing that. And that's something like, or even like like I said, I run Spartan races. But what I do is I'll run and then I volunteer after, and that pays for the race. But I absolutely love doing it. It's such a fun way to spend a day, and I meet people, and I've made so many connections and friends just doing that.
All right, man. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's pretty much it, man.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.